A relief rally sweeps global markets as big Wall Street banks come together to pump in $30 billion in deposits in First Public Bank as a show of confidence. The ECB hikes rates by 50 basis points, but pledges to step in to support the financial markets if needed. Asian markets rise between 1 to 2%. India underperforms in the global risk-on move with the Nifty trading absolutely flat. Banks lose the early morning momentum, but metals and IT see some bite. TCS trades marginally lower after Rajesh Gopinathan resigns from the top job to pursue other interests. And CEO designate K. Kirtivasan says that the company's priorities remain the same and the focus will be on strengthening the customer relationships. And more stocks in news today. HAL and Bharat Forge track gains as the Defence Ministry approves proposals worth 70,000 crore rupees, and the orders will be for a mix of helicopters, artillery guns and BrahMos missile systems. Zee Entertainment falls 4% after it denies having repaid a $10 million loan to IndusInd Bank. Hello and welcome. You have tuned into Business Lunch. I am Nisha Poddar. Let's take a quick look at the markets. And at this point, Nifty 50 is below the 17,000 level at 16,978 and is down only 7-8 points. So it is flattish in trade at the moment. But remember, it is underperforming the other Asian markets today, which are up 1 to 2% after there is some semblance of sanity in the banking space in the US overnight. So ours is underperforming. Let's take a look at sensex as well. Flattish to down in trade, over 50 points loss over there. Bank Nifty is the one which is really trading much lower than the key indices, 0.34% down at the moment, while mid-caps showing a green tinge, but still flattish in trade. So advanced decline ratio, because of the mid-cap participation on the green side, is in the positive direction at the moment. Some of the tech counters are really doing well in trade today. IT as well as metal and some of the consumer counters are performing well. But TCS, because of the news flow of the change in top brass, is the one which is in focus, is marginally down in trade. So let's take it to the big news of the day. Change at the helm of TCS. Rajesh Gopinathan resigns as the MD and CEO, and K. Krithivasan is all set to really take over the reins at the IT giant. In fact, my colleague Rima Tendulkar is standing by at the wall with all the details of this big development. Rima.
Thank you very much for that. In a sudden and shocking leadership change in India's largest IT services company, TCS, Rajesh Gopinathan has tendered his resignation after a successful 6-year stint as the managing director and CEO of the company. Mr. K. Krithivasan has been appointed as the Chief Executive Officer designate with effect from 16th of March 2023. Now, the street has been taken aback completely by surprise by this development, as just last year, in March of 2022, Rajesh was reappointed as the MD and CEO for a period of 5 years, which ends only in February of 2027, which means he stepped down 4 years before his term comes to an end. TCS has stuck to its policy of promoting an internal talent, with Krithivasan, a veteran at TCS, to the top position. Now, he has experience across multiple functions and he has been leading the company's largest vertical, BFSI, which contributes over a third of TCS's revenues by heading it for more than a decade. And Rajesh will ensure that it's a smooth transition by staying on until September 15, 2023, which means 6 months. Now, what will be the ask from the new CEO? Now, today at the presser conducted by TCS, we asked Krithivasan all this, and he said TCS has been built on 2 pillars: customer centricity and employees, and he wants to double down on making customer relationships stronger. When asked whether there will be any big strategic shifts, changes under him, Kriti replied that priorities and strategies do not change with CEO changes. So I guess we should expect more of the same. So what are brokerages made of this development? So let me start with Bernstein. They're saying the leadership change was unexpected during a challenging macro environment. CLSA says, given the age of TCS's senior leadership, Kriti Vasan is 58 years old, while NGS or N. Ganapathy Subramaniam, the COO of the company, is 63 years old. So CLSA believes that succession planning could become a point of focus, especially for long-term investors. Morgan Stanley says it may create a short-term overhang. However, they expect the transition to be smooth and well-managed as seen in the stock, and they don't think the stock is likely to underperform in the coming months. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Rima, for all those details. This is the second CEO change at the helm at TCS, remember, in the last less than 6 years. So after N. Chandra took over the Tata's son's CEO position, and then now this particular change. So that's quite a bit of changes there at the top brass at TCS. But outgoing TCS MD and CEO Rajesh Gopinathan and CEO designate K. Kriti Vasan also addressed the media earlier today. Let's listen into what they had to say about this change in the leadership and how they are going to go forward.
We have brought the volatility of the pandemic to a fair state. We have registered very strong growth, first bouncing off the pandemic lows with 15%. And then over the last 9 months also, we have still grown at 14.8% and crossed big milestones. What next is first have to make sure that the transition happens smoothly. And with Kriti being there, I don't think that is a challenge at all. If you look at the volatility or the demand outlook, I don't think we are in in a majorly concerning situation. Yeah, there is there is inflationary pressure, there is talk of recession. So maybe the recession will materialize. Maybe it will be more severe than what we thought it was. But that's all part and parcel of the business cycle and part of the business environment that we operate in.
TCS has been built on two important foundational pillars of customer centricity, as well as a huge set of employees who are always committed and who are given their best to TCS. I'm hoping to lead this company and double down on our core pillars of customer centricity, meeting more employees and meeting more customers and making the relationship stronger. Our belief is every time there is a change in the market, actually gives new opportunities. And just because we have a macroeconomic situation doesn't mean the customers are done with all the digital transformation and they have to stop doing any transformation. If at all, there is actually more need to continue. And maybe for a quarter or two, this disturbance will remain. But growth has to come back. Our customers have to transform and leverage all the digital technologies available with them. So we'll continue to focus on transforming our customers, bringing technology to the center of their business.
All right, so customer relationship and strength in that is one of the key aspects that the CEO designate at TCS said. But one must also point out that N. Chandrasekaran at the helm of Tata Sons is also a continuity when it comes to the overall group perspective, TCS being the crown jewel. But we'll stay with the IT space today. Nimesh is standing by with all the details on a Morgan Stanley note on the tech sector. So, Nimesh, which ones are upgraded, which ones are downgraded?
Hi, there is a big report from Morgan Stanley on IT names today. They've changed the preferences within the IT names, and they've double upgraded Cyan to overweight from underweight, and they've sharply raised the target price there. So, in terms of changes, a big overweight on L&T Mindtree as well as on Cyan, and they've downgraded Emphasis and Tech Mahindra to equal weight from overweight. Now, coming to the overweights, as I said, a big double upgrade on Cyan to from Morgan Stanley. There, they've raised the target price to 1100 from 730 earlier, and on L&T Mindtree, they've raised the target price down to 5600 versus 4600 earlier. Now, the key reason for the upgrade, for the changes and the upgrades is they believe that there are more tailwinds, which will overweight the headwinds as far as the margins are concerned for most of the IT names. And within that, the preferences include L&T Mindtree, TCS, and HCL Tech. They are the best position because they have the margin levers relative to the other peers. So on back of all this, 4 big changes, 2 upgrades, which is Cyient and L&T Mindtree, and they've downgraded to the Emphasis and Tech Mahindra to equal weight from overweight.
All right, thanks Nimesha for getting us all those details. Now, there are reports suggesting that bids for the monetization of NTPC's green portfolio have been finalized. It's going to be a large transaction. My colleague Vivek Iyer has all the details on this deal. Vivek, tell us.
Well, NTPC, this is the next big trigger as far as the stock is concerned, given the fact that the management has already guided that they would be looking to sell close to 20% stake in the renewable energy arm known as NGEL. Now, what are the newspaper reports indicating? Reports are indicating that the bids for the monetization of this particular green portfolio has been finalized. And as per media reports, Petronas of Malaysia has put in a bid. Now, this particular bid, if you're talking about the 20% equity value, this particular bid has come in at close to 3,800 crore, which values NTPC's green energy business at close to 19,000 crore. Now, when you're talking about this particular business itself, what does it contain? Mainly all of the renewable energy assets, out of which already 2.9 gigawatts renewable energy capacity has been commissioned, and another 4.7 gigawatts is currently under construction. Now, remember, on March 1st, the company had transferred all of the 15 assets that it had under the various renewable energy arms and had put it under NGEL, which is the green energy platform or the renewable energy platform. Now, Jefferies has reacted to this particular development. They have gone ahead and assigned a 12.5 rupees per share value for this particular transaction and for this particular value at which the bid has been submitted. It's an important development. It'll be interesting to see as and when this particular deal concludes, who is the eventual person or eventual bidder that gets the stake and at what valuation it is done.
Right, valuation is the key over here, Vivek, as I understand from the market reaction to this news development. With that, we'll slip into a short breather on Business Lunch, but a global relief rally is underway after fears of banking crisis once again subsides, and the ECB too hikes rates and shows confidence in the banking sector. All that and more coming up right after this short break. All right, so ECB sounding out a note of confidence and sticking to its path of interest rate heightening scenario. So that's a very important cue, and all eyes will be on 22nd March when the Fed really announces its statement as well. Let's also get you a word coming in from Dan Feynman of Credit Suisse, who says that the US might see a short-lived recession and believes that Asia is in a better place to be invested in comparison to the United States or Europe. Let's listen in.
If you look at household leverage, it's quite a bit lower, particularly in the US, than it was on the eve of the global financial crisis in 2008. We're expecting a recession in the US, but not a deep recession. We think it'll be a fairly shallow, a fairly short-lived recession. It will likely be a recession that leads to earnings problems at banks, but not a systemic issue. Is that Asia is a better place to be than the US or Europe right now. We have more robust economies. Cyclically, the economies are better positioned. We don't have the same inflation problem. You haven't had the big run-up in rates and bond yields that are causing some stresses in Western financial systems right now. India is a place that I think looks quite safe right now. We're not entirely happy with the valuations, but the macroeconomic backdrop is quite stable. We're roughly neutral between fixed income and equities as asset classes as a whole. But within equities, I think you can do better than fixed income in Asia and in emerging markets.
All right. On that positive note, we'll slip into a short breather on Business Lunch, but more news and updates follow on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch, and markets in a very tight range is showing some volatility when it comes to Bank Nifty and Nifty movements. But at the moment, in the last few minutes of trade, well, UPL, M&M, Adani Enterprises have been some of the ones which have seen some buying, while Cipla, ONGC, on the other hand, have been the top losers in terms of the percentage. Nykaa, Zomato, and that particular space is still outperforming the key indices today, so make a note of that. Now, we at News 18 Network are excited to announce the third edition of Rising India, the most anticipated thought leadership forum in the country, where we bring together some of the biggest and the most prolific personalities to celebrate India's successes and the growth story. Now, the theme for this year's edition is Real Heroes, where we bring you stories of some of the most extraordinary common people along with their uncommon achievements, and that have helped to bring about a positive change in our country, from recognizing people fighting climate emergency to helping revive some of India's oldest art, heritage and culture. News 18 Network's vast pool of reporters across the country have helped identify these heroes amongst us, and over the course of the next few weeks, we'll be bringing you these stories to you, and take a look at this one.
As trees are being cut around the world, tucked away in Musabani block of East Singhbhum, Jharkhand, is one woman who is determined that this fate will not befall her beloved forest. At first glance, she looks like an ordinary village woman, but supported by over 40 other women from the village, she has protected and preserved the 250 acres of forest around her village for the past 13 years and is determined to carry on the tradition. Kandoni Soren, also known as the warrior of the jungle, and a group of 40 women armed with traditional weapons regularly patrol the forest to ensure that their environmental heritage remains far from the clutches of the greedy timber mafia.
2010 से हम लोग शुरुआत किए, एक टीम बनाए और हम लोग का पेड़ पौधे बचाने का एक मुहिम चला रहे हैं। रास्ते में तो बहुत तरह की दिक्कत और चुनौती का सामना करना पड़ता है।
It is not an easy task to balance household chores with preservation efforts, but this has never stopped her. Kandoni ensures that basic food is made available to her team on patrols while they fulfill their water needs from natural sources. Apart from this, she has also been instrumental in the plantation of over 10,000 trees. Today, she is training the younger generation to take over the mantle, which is as enthused and determined to preserve their heritage like their elders. People like Kandoni Soren ensure that short-sighted and selfish greed do not win, and we leave a better world for the future generations to come.
All right, what an inspiring story there, and stay tuned as we bring you many more such stories of real heroes working across diverse fields in our special Rising India Real Hero series. With that, out of time on Business Lunch, but Midcap Radar comes up next. Stay tuned.